That's where I've been and who I am, all the ways I've grown. Blood and the sweat, tears and regret made me hard as stone. On my own, put the work in, yeah, I earned it, it's my destiny. Yeah, I'm on top, can't be stopped, shooting my shot. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm the one, I'm a legend, get what I want. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm on top, can't be stopped, shooting my shot. Oh, 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 yeah, I'm the one, I'm a legend, get what I want. Oh, 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 do a double take, see me on fire, see that I can break. Knew I'd be great, knew I would rise through all of the pain. All of the lows, start with it now, keep it revolve, faith never changed.
Good morning, Karen. You are the only one here today. Actually, we got a few more popping in. I expect a few more to pop in. Let's start off with a little housekeeping. I want to make sure you can hear me. Let me see a yes in chat, if you will. Beautiful. Tech will hopefully be my friend today. We're going to give everybody a couple more minutes to pop in here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Colburn. I own and operate Sitch Radio, a full-service podcast and video production company. In addition to that, I'm a personal coach to content creators, and I run an accountabilities network at the accountables.network. And basically everything I do, it revolves around content creators, whether it's for personal projects or corporate projects. I help you tell your story. So that's my main goal and motivation. So today we're going to be talking about mastering the digital space with confidence. It's going to be a 10,000-foot overview of multiple subjects that should be thought of when you are creating content or planning to create content. So I'm really excited about this. This is a brand new presentation for me. So bear with me if I get a little stumped for a second, but I will do my best to get through this as efficiently as possible and get everyone back to their day. Today, we're going to cover understanding the digital landscape, the power of personal branding, identifying your unique voice, overcoming imposter syndrome, practical strategies for content creation, and then at the very end, I've got a special discounted offer for you. This will be the first time I'm ever pitching a product, but I think you might dig it. It's multi-tiered. There's something for everybody, to include a freebie. So you might want to stick around for that. So first and foremost, understanding the digital landscape. And this is usually a hard conversation when I am coaching people because of all the platforms out there. But before we choose which platforms we want to play on, we need to think about our audience and where do they live. So, example, if you're producing business content, you're obviously going to prioritize LinkedIn over Facebook. If you are producing entertaining content, comedy, or anything where there might be some short snippets that the audience would love, TikTok might be a great place to play. I myself am pretty broad. I play on almost every social platform. However, I constantly look at analytics and deprioritize platforms. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a platform that doesn't give me the engagement that I would like to see for the amount of work I'm putting into posting on that platform. So understanding our ideal customer, understanding where they live in social media, and then understanding the trends of that platform are very, very important to get your message out. And I've got a story about Instagram and understanding that trend later that we're going to tie into this slide as well. But once you understand those three things, now it's about the messaging. reflecting on what the pain point they might feel is a great way to get somebody's attention to where they actually might read the post that you put out. So, for example, if you vacuum rugs all day long, I don't know why I'm using this example, and you have a vacuum sales company, you might identify how much time it takes to vacuum a carpet with a 16-inch vacuum versus a 26-inch vacuum. So the wider that vacuum is, you're going to be able to get through square footage faster. So identifying that pain point and saying we can help you vacuum faster would be a great way to get somebody's attention who spends time vacuuming, for example. So what are the pain points? Horrible example. I apologize for that. It just popped in my head. And then the message solving that pain point. And then so many people disregard the entertainment factor. If you can produce business content and have an entertainment component of that, then it's a win-win. You're going to educate people to your brand, your products, your services in an entertaining fashion. You're going to see your audience much more engage with you much more, grow faster because of that entertainment factor. So always try to think, how can we make this a little more entertaining? And then lastly, audience first. Has anybody heard of Paul or Logan Paul? He's got two first names. Yes, in the chat if you've heard of Logan Paul. Karen says no, and we'll see if Mr. Patel has. We'll move on. So he is still, I guess he's more of a podcaster now. He had a YouTube channel, and he was in Japan and went to a forest called Suicide Forest, and unfortunately stumbled across a deceased individual and made a horrible video. It is very disrespectful to the family, disrespectful to that individual. Came across so unauthentic and faking this, oh my gosh, look what we just found. And it really tanked his YouTube career. He kind of went silent for a little while. He didn't understand putting his audience first. And if everything we do creating content, we're putting our audience first, it's going to be received so much better. It's going to be more shareable, more relatable. And we stress that wholeheartedly with everything we create is what's the benefit for the audience. If we're putting them first, good things will happen. So we really need to keep that in mind. And there is a document I wanted to open that I don't have open because I want to share a link with you. Bear with me 1 second while I drive to it. And events and mastery digital. And here we go. Now let's see where it'll open. I'm going to slide that across that shared screen and put it on this monitor. And the first link I want to share with you. I guess I didn't put it on that document. Well, that is horrible of me. I can't copy and paste it from here. We'll get back to that. When we're done, I'll put a few links in the chat for you so you can visit these things. This website's called lifesite.io. It gives you trending information for which platforms are being used, how they're being used, etc., so on and so forth. And you might find it interesting that LinkedIn performs pretty poorly compared to everything. However, you're going to foster a much more engaging audience on LinkedIn if you're producing business content. So there's a lot of things we produce here that we don't even share on LinkedIn because we feel it's not appropriate for such a platform. However, when we produce business related content, it's LinkedIn first, and then Facebook, Twitter, they're kind of afterthoughts, if you will. So audience first, and I will share that link with you. That is slide 4. Personal branding. First off, I'm going to announce to the two of you, if all goes well on the first, I myself and a gentleman by the name of Jay Alba will be launching a podcast. We're really excited about it. It's called Branded Intent, and it is about creating content with an intention behind it. It's going to be seasonal, 10 episodes this season, and it's free. You'll be able to find it on all your favorite podcast players. Excuse me. We intend to do 10 episodes this season, so we're going to give ourselves a couple weeks off every quarter. And we're pretty excited about it. The first 5 episodes are already recorded and in editing now. I should be receiving the trailer tomorrow for scheduling out on the first, and we're really excited about that. And we're going to dive deep into personal branding on season 1. So that's why I bring it up. Sitchradio.com. I'll throw that link in the chat for you as well at the end, so you'll be able to find it easily when we get going. But personal branding. With a lot of the things that we do here, we always start with a mission statement. And if no one's ever written a mission statement before, we'll back up and we'll start with values. What values do you want this content to bring to the audience? And that is the foundation of what is your personal brand. So when we know what values we want to bring to the world, and we have a clearly defined mission statement and how we're going to share our content with those values into the world, it's a lot easier. But a lot of people think branding, they think colors and logo, but it goes deeper than that. And we're going to dive deep into that on the podcast Branded Intent here. But at the very least, we want consistent logos. We want consistent colors. And what I mean by that is, and I myself, the coaching platform is in the middle of a rebrand right now. The colors of your website should reflect color schemes on your Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, et cetera, pages. So people do not have a doubt of, am I on the right profile? I'm sure we've all spent time clicking and going to somebody's Facebook and not really having a clear understanding that this is their Facebook page. Because I know we've all clicked social links from websites and gone just to Facebook generic because that site wasn't set up. So at the very least, ensure your brand is consistent across all the social platforms to include your website of the platforms you intend to do business on it. When I say do business, it could be personal project or business project, but we do not want people to wonder if they're in the right place. We want them to know we're on the right page, and therefore, to interact with us if they would. So that's the importance. The main thing I want you to take away from personal branding, and we do a deep dive. We're going to do 10 episodes on personal branding. I just want to back up here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Good. But it is extremely important to have a brand. A lot of people will be like, I have a great idea for our content. They'll start a podcast, and branding is an afterthought. And that can cause confusion to your existing audience while you're trying to grow an audience. So if you have a great idea, let's work on building that out. But at the same time, create some tasks, maybe a couple of projects to really establish the brand you want to put forth. Moving on, identifying your unique voice. So whether you're doing an audio podcast or a video show or on the personal speaking circuit, having your unique voice is paramount. A lot of what I do is not scripted. I have bullet points written down because I understand the content I'm presenting, and I present it in an authentic manner. I'm not one for, reading scripts. I, I, I want you to do business with me, for my authentic self and the way I deliver content. And if you don't like me or the way I deliver content, then there's somebody else out there that you might resonate with more to do business with. But if I'm trying to be something I'm not being authentic, and eventually that's going to slip out, and then it's going to cause confusion in a business relationship, which is what we do not want. So part of finding that unique voice or having that unique voice is authenticity, in my opinion. So self-reflection and authenticity. We just talked about authenticity. At the end of every presentation, at the end of every session, anything that we do as a company in any of the three verticals we're in, we have a period of reflection where we might take notes. What went wrong? What went right? What we should do more of? What we should do less of? Those are the four main points in that. And things that went wrong, we can correct for. So having that checklist of things we need to fix and correct is paramount, because the next time we do a similar activity, we're going to be better. So having that self-reflection period is paramount. For example, I'm working on not saying as many filler words as possible. I've let a few slip here. I've recognized the fact, and I'm going to do my best to slow down, calm down, and not use filler words as much as I am. Finding inspiration without imitation. A lot of what we do here, let me back up. No matter what your thoughts are on original thought, what we do here is inspired by so many things. For example, when we're working with a new editor, I like to share a YouTube video with them, and it's by Studio Binder, and it is a scene by scene breakdown of the bridge scene in the beginning of the movie. And it's filled with action and it's filled with violence, but it illustrates how camera angles and speed in between cuts of camera angles helps tell that story. It helps create a level of anxiety to where you feel like you're part of it. And understanding that we can do that with just plain and simple editing is awesome. So that's just one aspect of finding inspiration. We're probably never going to edit a customer's piece of content that has that much action or requires that much pre-production and shooting a shot schedule. However, doing quick cuts when somebody says something funny, or maybe cutting away from the speaker to capture somebody's reaction, things like that go a long way at increasing the production value of a shot. So we don't want to imitate anybody. However, we can learn from what people have done before us and incorporate it wholly or partially in a piece of what we do. Consistency across platforms. This is kind of a double-edged sword. The platforms we choose to play on, we want to promote whatever it is we're promoting. But I write differently for my Facebook audience than I do for my LinkedIn audience. I might create different graphics for Instagram than I do LinkedIn because of people's behaviors on that platform. So what I mean by that is, on Instagram, I want something to be catchy. If they're scrolling, I want them to stop and I want their attention, hopefully for longer than 3 seconds, hopefully long enough to where they actually want to read the caption. On LinkedIn, it's not necessarily about the graphic, it's more about the title and tagline. So we write differently for the platforms we are posting on, but the message can be consistent. And part of consistency is also being present. You know, we've set a goal to post daily on all platforms that we opt in to play on. And we've done pretty well so far this year. Beginning of the year was a little rough. However, I don't think we've missed a day in the last 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. So that's part of consistency as well. We want to show up and be present. And there's platforms we're going to talk about later that can help you schedule things out so you don't have to log in every day to a social platform to post something. Feedback and engagement, we're going to do a deeper dive into this as well. But feedback and engagement is extremely important. If you post something and somebody comments, you need to engage with that individual at some level. And then case studies, understanding what's working for others. Maybe if you did something spectacular, you have that hockey stick analytical report, maybe you're going to do a deep dive and write a case study for others to learn from. But there's platforms like Social Media Examiner that, you know, talks to people about what they're doing and why it's working on social media platforms. So there's tons of information out there that we can learn from. It's just, are we going to take the time to learn from them? So there are case studies out there, and I encourage you to take a peek. Now, one of my favorite topics here is imposter syndrome. And we're not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on it. However, I do want to cover a few things. Imposter syndrome is an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. And a wise man once told me, "Who's the smartest person in the room?" And the answer that he gave me was, it's the one that knows 5% more about a particular subject than anybody else in the room. So you can become that resident expert just because of what you do know and who you surround yourself with. I like to use that story when I'm talking to people. You know, everybody has their own disciplines. People here are going to know more about subjects than I do. So they become the resident expert because they are here. And we need to recognize that as, you know, the feather in our cap and to push forward. Identifying triggers and patterns that stop us from speaking or voicing an opinion is paramount. And then reframing those thoughts so we can speak and can talk comfortably is extremely important. And then being around or developing your own community. You know, I referenced the accountables earlier. And when I first started the business, and some of you might have heard this story before, I was looking for an accountability group or a mentorship group for, you know, solopreneurs, honestly. And I couldn't find anything that was affordable. And, you know, years ago, I wrote down a note in my idea bucket to start one because I would have found value in it back then. So, you know, years later, we create the Accountables Network, and it is to help that small solo entrepreneur, creative, peer-to-peer mentorship to overcome challenges they're having. We all share, you know, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what our rough patches last week, what our wins were last week, and we're there to be supportive. And it's amazing how liberating it can be to realize there's people in the same boat I'm in. I'm not the only one trying to bail this dinghy out. You know, other people are treading the same waters. So when we put minds like that together with people who experienced that 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, we can really help them come to market faster with whatever it is that they are working on. So having that community is very, very important. And overcoming imposter syndrome can be a journey. You know, I work with creatives who don't want video, audio only. They're fine sharing their voice with the world, but not their face. And that's fine. That's a step up from not sharing their story at all. So there's things that we can do to help you overcome imposter syndrome, number one. Number two, maybe find a medium that you're comfortable with. Um, because everybody has a story to share, and there's somebody out there that can find value in that story. And they'll never find it if we don't, take the opportunity to create it. So enough about that. This is where I get into some story time, and I'm going to do my best not to drop names. I mistakenly put names in my bullet points. So forgive me if I do. But I want to talk about the confident speaker, not confident monetizing. I work with a customer still who was 100% comfortable audio, video, writing. His issue was I'm not comfortable asking for money for what it is I'm doing. And after several long conversations, I encouraged him to try it. And those conversations I think are important to mention here. Number one, the content you're putting out, do you not feel there's value in it? Which was an eye opener for him. And he came to the realization that no, there is value in this. Then let's ask to be compensated for the value we're bringing to your niche. And hesitantly, he did. He turned on the paywall. And about 8 hours later, he sent me a text. It was later on in the evening that he had already had 4 paying customers. 3 of them paid for the entire year, not just month to month. And that validated his reasons for creating content to begin with. So that story alone is, if you're taking the time creating content, your audience is growing and getting larger and larger, there's a portion of them that will compensate you for the relief you're bringing to their pain points, if you will. And that could be a comedy show. Everybody wants to escape from the reality of life from time to time. And I love going to live in-person stand-up comedy. And I pay at the door for relief from my pain point. And it's the same with creating content, whether it's a written newsletter, an audio podcast, or, video content, online courses, whatever it is, there's a portion of your existing audience who will pay for it. And that should validate you as the creator and incentivize you to create content, raising the bar on yourself with much more value in it to try to win more of those, that existing audience over. The next story is great story, but camera shy. This individual did get over their camera shyness to a point, but then stopped producing. And I think it was the fact that the video content blew up. And we started off with this. We would take the audio podcast. I would bring the audio into, we use Adobe to edit video into Premiere. And I laid a still image over it and converted it to a video file. And the YouTube audience grew faster than the audio only or podcast audience did. And it wasn't moving pictures. It was an image. And then they finally started creating some, every once in a while, video imagery, live video, them on camera. And it did even better. But they just were uncomfortable with it and became overwhelmed to the point they stopped producing. So failure on my part trying to pour gas on what was working, and not taking the host's feelings into account. So that was a valuable lesson I learned, and not to push a host too far. However, let them realize that, yes, I'm going to be able to help more people if I do X. So I need to become comfortable doing X. The fourth story here, no problem asking for money. Message wasn't genuine. You know, if you've ever fallen into a marketer's funnel that teaches marketing, the amount of emails, text messages you receive is just horrendous. So many. They just push and push and push. And in their industry, it seems to work. In this gentleman's industry, it didn't. And the audience dwindled because he was taking a model of marketing um, from one industry into another. And people started unsubscribing, unfollowing, and leaving. So even if you have no problem creating content, you have no problem asking for compensation for that content, you need to message the audience in a manner and tone which is A, going to help you accomplish your mission, but B, not overwhelm them so they're leaving your circle of influence. And the way we do that is A/B testing. We try different fonts, different colors, different messages, different times of the day, different platforms, and we look at the analytical data we get back from those posts, and we see what worked better than what didn't. And then we take what did work and we replicate that with different colors, fonts, styles, times, platforms, and we refine our marketing message. And we might identify that this platform is gold for us. These other platforms aren't. This color performed better. This font performed better. And we're kind of getting, into the weeds here when it comes to marketing, but you can do that on a much smaller scale for the content you're producing. So having the right message to the right audience at the right time is paramount. And lastly here, knowledgeable, experienced, it didn't feel like he was expert enough. This is a gentleman I'm still working with, and he's getting ready to launch his product, and he knew his industry. Knows what he's talking about. He performs flawlessly in the field, and just didn't have the self-confidence to think of himself as competent. That's a good word. Well, he now feels he's competent enough to start sharing his message more and more. And as luck has it, if you ask, people respond. He's now building a huge following. He sends out an email blast and gets tons of opportunity from it. And, he's grateful for it. So working with these individuals and getting them past whatever was holding them back was rewarding for me. And the one story I shared with you was extremely educational for me. I learned how far I should push. So, not we can't win every game. And that was one I definitely lost, but I learned from, and I will not lose that game again. So those are some case studies or success stories I wanted to share with you, hoping you can relate and pull some actionable information from this. And it's paramount that we filter negative feedback or negative experiences in what we do. We shouldn't ignore them, in my opinion, unless it's just that hater. Yes, ignore them. But if they're like, well, that presentation sucked because of X. Okay, that's their opinion. Maybe they were having a bad day. Sorry you didn't enjoy. Have a great day. um, and the one story I shared with you where I pushed too hard, I pulled back. I did that after action analysis report on myself, and I realized that their stated dream of having that large following, um, I, I just progressed too fast from audio only to video with audio under bed with them being on camera, and I just overwhelmed them. So again, Mr. Patel, thank you for being here. The replay will be available on the Accountables Network. Head on over there and check it out. Sign up for free. It's all good. Have a great day. So enough about case studies. We can learn from other people's case studies. We can learn from our own if we take the time to analyze them. So it is just us, Karen, you and I. Moving on. Plan, develop practical strategies for content creation. And Karen, you've heard some of this before, so I'm going to run through this slide. Values, mission statement, create content, vet that content, release that content, market that content, review the analytics, learn from them, and adapt the content. And we have a great understanding of how we should adapt it because we have values and a mission statement and a clear plan up front of what it is we're trying to accomplish. Sometimes it's going to work better than others. So when it does work better than others, why did it work better than others? That's the secret sauce we want to identify so we can spread it on the bun of our next piece of content that we're creating. So, I just released a blog article on the accountables.network, utilizing the OODA loop, which was actually developed by an Air Force officer for fighter pilots when they're engaged in aerial combat. However, I took that and applied it to content creation. If we create something and a month later we're wondering why nobody's listening or watching or reading, well, let's go back and take a look at what we've been doing. We shouldn't just keep doing the same thing. We need to mix it up a little bit based on analytical data and taking a review of what we did do or didn't do. Enhancing online visibility. When somebody says, that was great, you did a good job, ask them for a review. Hopefully they're saying it because you did inspire them or you did motivate them. But ask them to go to whatever platform you would like a review on. I use Trust Index that scrapes doesn't do LinkedIn, Facebook, Yelp, a few other platforms, Google. And I display a Trust Index banner on my websites because that is social proof to somebody that might be looking at my website for the first time. I have a form letter that I use, and every quarter I send it out to a portion of my audience and ask them for a review on a specific platform. And I go one step farther. Could you please share a short story of how I helped you overcome A, B, or C? Could you talk about your experience in the studio, how painless it was? In, out, studio was clean, set up, ready to go to work. The product was wonderful. I kind of seed them with suggestion geared towards the reviews that I want. When I first thought about becoming a coach, I asked my followers, customers, for a review on my coaching ability and how I help them overcome problems. So that was beneficial for me, setting that foundation to start coaching other people. Yes. And that's one thing you can do, Karen, to help overcome that is target who you're asking for a review from and the language that you use in asking for that review. You know, I'm so glad you had a positive experience with me. I would love for you to briefly talk about what a wonderful experience this was on my LinkedIn page. Here's a link. So you're seeding them with, I want positivity. I'm looking for ease use of the studio, or I'm looking for, he coached me through this tough problem. Um, and it's funny when you ask, people do. And it's genuine. They're in their own words. Some will write 5 paragraphs and overwhelm me. And some will write a couple of sentences. And I'm like, oh, that's a little underwhelming. However, it's still positive. So I'll take it. But enhancing your online visibility is now sharing the social proof that you received. So you have to ask for it. You need to review it. You need to utilize it to provide social proof to others finding you for the first time. So it's a pretty simple process. Rinse and repeat. I do it every quarter, and it's helped me get to where I am today. Engaging your audience. Karen, you might have heard this story. So I'm gonna make it brief. If you have questions, please jump in the comments. We just spent hours creating a piece of content. We posted. If people take the time to comment, we need to reply quickly. And that's for algorithmic reasons on the platform. And a great way to reply is asking a question, because we're soliciting another response from them. And again, this is to help us with the algorithm. And then we can review that post after a few days. How much engagement did it get? And, rinse and repeat. One thing I like to do is look at episodes monthly. Which episode did the best this month and why? And it's 30 days after the fourth post was measured. So I'm looking at 60 days of data. And when we find that a certain topic was more popular than the other 3 topics we might have spoke on that month, maybe we figure out how we can expand upon that next month and see if it continues to grow in the analytics. And when you consistently provide content that people are looking for, and we know they're looking for it because of the amount of engagement or shares or views that it had, then we're just going to grow that vertical, that channel, that platform that much faster. So I worked with a young lady who had such an engaging audience that posting on Instagram actually got reduced to once a day. And she had to schedule an hour to 2 hours of time once she hit post. And it started off as, I want to grow my channel, because at the time, Instagram, when you posted something, they would show it to 10% of your followers, just 10%. And depending on the amount of engagement it got within the first hour, it would show it to more. It would start the hour clock over again, show it to more, show it to more. So if 10 people jumped on and left comments, she had 10 comments. But if she replied to each comment, she had 20 comments. And for the next hour, hour and a half, she's engaging and socializing with some of these people that she shared phone numbers with. And they now have phone conversations, and just grew such a loyal following because she took the time. She recognized Instagram's my platform of choice, and this behavior solicits more growth. So I'm going to rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So she would spend about an hour to an hour and a half a day on Instagram, just replying back and forth to that one piece of visual content that she created. And the Instagram channel just blew up, which was phenomenal. And of course, some of it was self-serving. Did you listen to that last episode? Or people may ask questions, and she would direct them to an episode where that was discussed, which then would fuel more downloads of that piece of content, which was cool. So it was, again, that OODA loop, that circular post, reply, ask questions, review, that helped her grow relatively quickly. And tools and resources. This is a double-edged sword again, especially now with AI being incorporated into everything. There are so many cool tools, we call them shiny objects, that you can spend 8 hours a week just looking at the new tool that's going to make your life easier. And I encourage this. Find a tool that you're comfortable using, paying for if it's a subscription-based model, and use it. And at the end of the year, I evaluate last year. What was my biggest pain points? And when they're identified, we'll use social media management as the example here. When social media management was identified as I'm spending too much time trying to manage this, what tools are out there to help reduce that pain? And I landed on CoSchedule. I tried Buffer, Hootsuite. CoSchedule was the platform for me, mainly because it would integrate with my newsletter, it would integrate with my website, and allow me to do more things from a single platform than not. Not a commercial for them. I don't get paid by them. It was the tool that I landed on. Well, new tools come out and they're like, hey, look at this. And I can say, no, I'm comfortable with the tool that I have because it's no longer a pain point. The tool I have is solving that pain point. Will one of these tools save me a little money? It might, but imagine migrating all that work you've done in CoSchedule over to it. What does that do to the price tag when you evaluate the time that you and or your employees are going to spend just migrating to a platform? That ROI can quickly become 18 months, 2 years. So saving $10 a month, you're not going to see it for a while. So I encourage people to stop looking at shiny new tools every single day, week, month. If you want to do it quarterly, review your pain points quarterly and make a decision on what you should and or shouldn't do. So many people come to me with, I don't know what to talk about next. And two things. You can go to Google and you can search, what are the top 10 problems with, that would be too soon. I was getting ready to throw a joke in there. What are the top 10 problems with trimming hedges? And Google, A, is going to give you some advertisements. B, it's going to give you a list of people also searched for this. So if you start creating content, solving these pain points, answering these questions of what Google returned to you, but also what people searched for, what other things people searched for, you're going to see that content being returned in Google search and people engaging with it more because you're answering an existing problem, which brings us to answer the public. The site's changed over the years. You can no longer download Excel sheets from the data returns that it's giving you unless you're a paid member, but it can still give you some great information. It aggregates search engines searches and has a color code to it. The darker the color, the more people searched. And it breaks everything down into who, what, when, where, why, how. So if you go to Answer the Public and you search trouble trimming hedges, it's going to give you so much information. You're going to walk away with at least 5 things that are heavily searched right now today. And if you answer that content and get it out quickly, you're going to see that content doing really, really well. Answer the Public, last time I checked, was about $100 a month, too rich for my blood. However, it might be a great paid tool for some of you. So we're going to go from there. Large language models like ChatGPT. It's all the rave, all the rage. Karen, I think you've sat in on one of my ChatGPT talks before. People are confusing large language models with AI. They are not. ChatGPT is not artificial intelligence. It is a large language model. And if you learn to use it efficiently, it's a phenomenal tool and will reduce the amount of time it takes you to brainstorm, create, organize thought. And it's just a ridiculous tool. Notion and Airtable. I use Airtable for some customers. I use Notion for other customers, and they are tools that are collaborative to share information, organize thought. I have production um, templates in both. One Notion is much more in depth than Airtable is, but tools like this can really help you control what you're producing, when you're producing it, what tasks need to be done to complete the production of this. Which systemizes your production, which is going to make it more consistent, which is going to give you a better understanding of how much time it does take to create some of the content you're creating. So I encourage you to systematize a production process, even if it is just a Word doc, a template that you've saved in Word that you can generate a new one and start checking boxes to make sure all the bases are being covered. Grammarly is like my best friend. It is my new best friend with ChatGPT. Those two tools together help me create better content faster. Um, so organizing thought, dumping it into Grammarly, building it out, writing, um, and then using the Grammarly tools to check for spelling, check for grammar, check for tone, check for everything it checks for, has been awesome. So Grammarly and ChatGPT are two tools I do not mind paying for on a monthly basis. And then affiliate programs. A lot of people want to monetize their content. They're not sure how. Affiliate marketing is a low barrier to enter way for you to earn some money. However, it's a little time intensive on managing it. So every time you produce a piece of content, you have to copy and paste links, but you can templatize that. Is that a word? Templatize? You can make that a template and copy paste and make it a little simpler on you, but you need to keep up with it for sure. Time management for content creators. So in one of the accountables groups on the very same day, I had 4 people tell me that their biggest pain point last week was time management. And that's when I replied to them, you only have 24 hours to manage in a day. If you can't manage them, what can you manage? And it blows me away that none of them were, in my opinion, effectively using a calendar. And my calendars typically, it looks chaotic, but it's organized chaos. I block time off my calendar to write for the Accountables Network twice a week. I block time off to create new PowerPoint presentations and develop the delivery of the content. On my calendar, I block time. This time is for this task. And when you do that and somebody wants to book at 10 o'clock, it doesn't even show up as available in your booking software. I'm using Odoo and Calendly right now. I'm migrating away from Calendly. But when somebody wants to book time with me, it doesn't even appear. It's not an option for them. It's my time to accomplish this task. Now, if they pick up the phone and it's more important than that task, and I can effectively move that task, but still meet my deadline, I'm more than happy to do that. But, it was a self-imposed deadline because my audience expects a new blog post every Monday and every Friday. So it has to get done. Audience first. I'm not going to let my audience down. So calendar your work and batch work. We took a 4-hour block of time And Jay Alba and I recorded 5 episodes in 4 hours. All that data was then given to him for editing. All that data is going to come back to me. And then I'm going to transcribe, write show notes, do everything else that needs to get done. So we're splitting the work, but because we're doing it in a batch format, I don't have to open the software and upload one file, wait for it to transcribe, and then start editing it. I can open that piece of software, upload all 5, work on another task, come back to it, transcribe them all, work on another task while it's transcribing. And it's just a much more efficient use of time. You know, back in the day, I asked an employee to change a fluorescent tube in lighting. And there were 3 out in the same room. And he went back and grabbed the ladder and changed the one bulb that I asked him to change, and didn't take the initiative to change the others out. So we had a conversation, and I took it one step farther. When you put a light fixture in, you put 3 bulbs in, and they're on and off at the same time. So if one burns out, the other 2 are going to burn out within just a couple of hours. The monies spent on changing a light bulb, the cost of the tube is inconsequential. What costs the amount of money is the employee going to the workshop to grab the ladder, grab any tools he might need, collect the light bulb, walk to the area, set the ladder up, pull the grate down, change a bulb or 3 right then at the same time, and then put all that stuff away. That was the expensive part of changing a light bulb. The light bulb was nothing compared to that. So we set the standard of, if a tube goes out in a fixture, we change all the tubes in that fixture. While we're in that room with the ladder, we're going to check every other light and change it out if need be, and change out all the tubes again if one tube is out in that fixture. And that's the concept of batch work. Setting up to record in my case is, lengthy. We got to turn 2 computers on, 4 pieces of peripheral hardware, lights in the booth, 3 cameras, so setting it up once to record 5 episodes takes a lot less time for setting it up 5 individual times. I think I beat batch work to death. Communicate effectively. I was just asked to be on a podcast, and it was a show. Anytime that happens, I go take a look at the podcast. And is it a good fit for me? Is it a good fit for my audience? And then I also evaluate the manner in which this host communicated with me. And this is one thing that we do and we set up with our hosts. When I ask somebody to be a guest on my show, expectations are communicated with them. Time invested is communicated with them. I want them to make an informed decision. Not just, would you like to be a guest? Yeah, I want to be a guest. And then, oh, well, you need to show up 30 minutes early so we can do tech check and go over questions. And that's just a lot. And they're less likely to show up. But if you're upfront with them, they know what they're getting themselves into. And if they agree, they're more likely to show up for you when they're supposed to. On the back end of that, hey, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. It was a great conversation. When it's published, you're going to get another email from me. I'm going to include some graphics you can share on your social media platforms with a link to where people can find you on my show. And when you communicate in that manner, everything works better. Your show grows faster because they're sharing it with their community, which is typically why we bring guests onto a podcast, not just for the knowledge. We're hoping that they're going to share and grow our show with their audience. So communicating effectively is huge. And anytime somebody that I work with says, well, I didn't know that, I make a note of it and I edit my template for that note, whatever note it belongs in. So the next time I'm communicating with somebody, this person's question is being answered up front, again, making it a little more effective. And then planning for the worst. Any 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 one of my hosts has shows that are ready to go. We work with a lot of creators that create live. And if their guest doesn't show, they can flip the page in their binder, grab the talking points for the next show, and go. So we call them evergreen. They're not date specific. They're shows that are ready to be delivered if need be. So there's never an interruption in production if a guest doesn't show or a guest tech just, took a fall or whatnot. So having a plan to utilize that production time that's on your calendar, whether you have a guest or not, is paramount. And we can take that a few steps farther across the production process, but always, always plan for the worst. Setting and achieving goals. I am so huge on goals. It's pathetic. I think a lot of people's stress come from the lack of having goals. They if people sit back and go, "Oh, what should I do now?" It blows my mind that that's even a thought for people because I have goals, I have projects, I have tasks. If I book an hour of calendar time and it took 20 minutes, I know exactly what I'm doing next because I've planned my day, my week, my month. And if nothing's on my calendar, all my tasks are complete, great. I can go to one of my projects and I can push something ahead of schedule if need be. So setting and achieving goals brings a calmness to me. It clears my mind. I don't have to wonder what I'm doing. I know what I should be doing. And because of that, there's not a lot of stress. You know, so many content creators come in here and they're stressed and they're anxious and let's just take a deep breath. We're creating a piece of content for the world. The stress shouldn't be here. The stress is going to show through in our voice or on video. And we don't want our audience seeing us in that state. So we need to take a deep breath so we can plan things out. Let's that show we're launching next month, the first 10 seasons are planned. The first 2 seasons, every episode is already outlined. So this is content we're not going to be creating until July, but the show's already put together. Because when you block an hour of time to plan out production, it's amazing how much you can get planned. So we're well ahead of schedule. So everything that we do should be in support of a project, a task, or a goal. But it all starts with setting that goal. So set goals, whether they're personal, professional, they can obviously be both, whether it's a relationship or I've got a goal to visit the Vatican next year. That is a goal. And when we break it down into projects and we associate time and money, we can then save appropriately to achieve that goal of traveling across the Atlantic Ocean and visiting Italy and walking in Rome. And it just baffles me that people don't think like that, especially if they're in business for themselves or they're a professional in a business. It should always goal driven, goal driven, goal driven. Enough about that. John Ruskin said, to be able to ask a question clearly is 2/3 the way to getting it answered. And I like that quote. I think it's a little pretentious, but I'm going to start including that in my it's Q&A time slide. Karen, do you have any questions? Is Karen still with me? Well, let's dive into it. We've got oh crap, it's 11:06. We don't have time. Listen, you're the only one here. I'm gonna go through that that presentation went a little longer than expected. I want to talk to you about what it is we're offering. You know about the Accountables Network. That is there. It's always going to be there for you. If you think you need to be in an accountability group, to help push you forward. The ask is $100 a month, 99 or something like that a month. We meet weekly via Zoom. There's a podcasters cohort, there's a blogging cohort, and then there's the main accountables cohort, which isn't discipline specific. But we have a few industries in it, so it could be beneficial. That is always there for you. I would like to introduce Imposter No More. If you or anyone you know is dealing with imposter syndrome, they want to be a public speaker, they want to start a podcast, they want to do something, but they just don't feel they're the expert. I have published Imposter No More. It's available at Amazon. The book is a journal. So it's a 12-week program that you can go through self-paced to help overcome imposter syndrome and achieve the goals they want to achieve. So that is there because it is a journal. Yes, the QR code is the link. You can scan that with your phone and or just search Imposter No More Brian Colburn on Amazon and it'll pop up. Or that link.bcolburn.com, Imposter No More will take you right there as well. So if there's anyone you know that's dealing with that or experiencing that, this is a pretty cost-effective tool that they can utilize to help them overcome that. And I also run a 13-week program with me one-on-one, working through the book in so much more depth than the book is going to give to offer. We're going to be able to dive in and get quite a bit done in an hour a week for 13 weeks. So those are the offers I wanted to share. All right. If you're good for now, I'm good for now. So great to virtually engage with you in the chat. I appreciate you being here and go forth and create some good content. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Have a great week.